When most people look back on the year 2020, they immediately think of the pandemic, the riots, all of the political disputes, and a lot of the overall pain that people had to experience that year. But when I look back on 2020, I see it as a pretty good year for games at the very least. We had games like Final Fantasy VII Remake, Doom Eternal, The Ghost of Tsushima, Spider-Man Miles Morales, and a hell of a lot more. But there was one game that came out in 2020 that seemed to tear apart the gaming community. But before we dive any further into the topic, I wanted to say thank you to JIT11, whose channel link you can find in the description below. He's actually the one who captured all of the clips that you see in the background, gameplay of The Last of Us Part 2, because I currently do not have my PlayStation at the moment and wasn't able to capture any of the clips myself. So if you guys would please do me a huge favor and go check out his channel, I'll leave a link in the description like I said, and you guys can go watch all of his great content. So let's actually get into the video. I think it's pretty easy to say that everyone loved The Last of Us. It had great reception upon release, winning Game of the Year in 2013. The story was deep and fulfilling, the characters were complex, each having their own motivations and goals. So how could a game with such glowing reviews and reception turn into people review bombing and calling it bad? Well, let's just start and say that I loved The Last of Us Part 2. I thought it was fun, beautiful, had a great story, I loved the characters, and yes, I even liked the ending, which is honestly what most people complained about. So let's get this out of the way and say that this is my opinion. If you feel differently than me, then that doesn't make you wrong. If you just hate this game and you have your own reasons, then that's fine, and it's not my job to tell you that your opinion isn't valid. But I am here to address all of the blind hate and try my best to tell you why I believe that this game is so fantastic. To get the full context of all the hate on this game, we really have to take it back a few months before the game's actual release. A rogue Naughty Dog developer, whose name actually never came out, had some payment disputes within the company, demanding a lot of money or extra pay. When they declined, he leaked the entire story of The Last of Us Part 2, and from here, the internet went wild. Most critics all reviewed this game with pretty high praise, but a lot of YouTubers and streamers really dogged on this game, calling the story generic and bland, and some people going to the extreme and calling it straight up trash, or woke trash. The whole woke thing people kept saying, I never really understood. The relationship with Ellie and Dina never felt forced, and it felt supernatural. So I don't consider it pandering in the slightest, but the people who say that are in the minority. So let's all push that aside and let's talk about the story. I briefly mentioned earlier how people were calling the story generic. Well, this is mainly because of the revenge plotline. Now, I completely understand being mad at a story that is generic and super safe, but that is not at all what this game is. The revenge plotline is used as a way to grow the characters. And not just Ellie. You play as Abby as well, and you get her side of the story. You come to sympathize with Abby and understand her goals, thoughts, and feelings. And the game really tries its best to humanize her, because so far, all we've seen is Ellie's desire for revenge.
I'm gonna find, and I'm gonna kill every last one of them.
I really like this plot device of humanizing the enemy. I cannot stand media where the bad guy is just some crazy mustache twirling villain who's all bad. Abby had reasons to go after Joel because Joel killed her father. I know we all got upset at Joel's death, but I hate when people paint Joel as some sort of saint. He murdered every Firefly just for his own selfish desires, and even lied to Ellie about it. So the fact that Abby killed Joel just didn't come out of nowhere. She killed Joel for the same reason Joel killed the Fireflies. She was selfish and wanted revenge. Revenge is the driving point of the narrative. Abby came for revenge against Joel, and Ellie came for revenge against Abby. But as the game goes on, we can really see Abby and the rest of her friends sort of regretting their decision, and a lot of them haunted by the event. After meeting Lev, Abby begins to change, and we see her go through some significant character development. Her selfishness is no longer what drives her because now she has Lev. If she had Lev from the beginning, I really think Abby would have never gone after Joel. Lev is even the reason Abby does not kill Ellie in the theater fight.
She's pregnant. Good.
Abby!
Ellie, on the other hand, is just filled with a burning rage that fuels her revenge quest against Abby. We watch as Ellie devolves down the same path that Abby took, and it's honestly quite frightening how brutal Ellie can get. Only at the end of the game, during their fight in the finale, does Ellie begin to understand. As she recalls a memory of Joel, she pulls back and weeps, letting Abby go. I think what happened in this scene was a lot more than what was shown. I believe that Ellie saw herself in Lev, and understood that if she killed Abby, it would only fuel another revenge cycle. It would be a never-ending cycle of pain and misery. A lot of people really didn't like the ending, because they didn't get the revenge, but quite honestly, I think that was the point. I think Neil Druckmann really wanted to show people how we become savage, wishing death upon others for something as silly as revenge. He wanted us to realize that revenge really isn't the right way, and we need to be better. What good would come of Ellie killing Abby? Satisfaction? Of killing a killer? So what does that make you? You're literally the same as Abby. You're no better than her. Now, the story is fantastic, but now let's talk about how freaking fun the gameplay is. Gameplay is one of the most essential parts of a video game, obviously, and The Last of Us Part 2 executes it very well. The movement mechanics are so smooth and fluid, and the animation just tops it all off. When fighting, you can actively use the environment, and the fights never feel like static shooting back and forth. Ellie cannot soak up bullets, so you're forced to constantly be on the move, and when in melee fights with enemies, Ellie will use anything around her. She will throw them into walls, cars, over ledges, and it's honestly amazing how much variety there can be when playing. I've beaten the game around 6 times, and I was never bored of the gameplay. The stealth in this game is absolutely fantastic, and I always felt extremely rewarded to finish a whole level without being caught. If I got caught in a stealth section, I would just purposely die so I could redo the entire level stealth. I personally really loved the melee combat more than the gun combat because of the engaging ways Ellie can fight, and it always just looked really badass.
Hey, that's pretty good.
Anyway, everyone, I think that's gonna about do it for this video. Just a little reminder before we close off, you guys need to go check out J811's channel. There will be a link in the description below that goes straight to his channel, and you can go watch all of his content. He's going to be uploading a hell of a lot more in the next few months, and it's going to be great stuff. So I really want you guys to be subscribed so you can see everything that he's going to put out. And yeah, that's going to about do it. You guys have any suggestions for games, shows, or movies you might want me to do reviews on in the future? Then please leave those in the comments, and I'll see you guys next week.